have us all in this room tonight to hear some really amazing stories from principals who've been working with business leaders to actually do the work in the schools. I hope you will be as inspired as I always am when I listen to the principals. Now I would like to invite Louise van Rhyn, the CEO and founder of Symphonia and the visionary behind the Partners for Possibility program.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight. Rosie started by saying how grateful we are, and I just get to amplify that. We in Partners for Possibility have been working hard over the last few years to see whether we can make change happen, despite all the odds. And the only reason why we have been able to keep going is because of people like you. So it's a privilege to be in the room with you, and I know that everybody who's here tonight are in the room because they want to be a contribution. Now, Peter Block has told us that we change the world, one room at a time. And then the question comes, which room? It's the room we're in right now. So we are here tonight, and we've all come to be here, to be part of a world-changing conversation. And we had a similar experience last night, and everybody who left that room left being changed in some way. So this is an invitation for you to be ready to be changed. I'm going to do a very quick story around why are we doing this. Because there are many, many people and organizations working in education. And yet, 80% of our schools are deemed to be dysfunctional. Now that's an indictment on our country, because we have allowed this to happen on our watch. Now, when this becomes a real challenge, when we look at our results, and for some of you this will be old information, but for some of you this is going to be new. We have 1.1 million children who enter grade 1 every year. 1.2 million children. Of those children, only 500,000 will make it to matric. And of the ones that make it to matric, only 200,000 will leave matric with a qualification that will enable them to live an economically sustainable life. Some of you will have seen the Times article that says if we do one thing in this country, and that is to get every 15-year-old to read at grade level, we will see an increase of GDP of 2,426%. So I think it's time for us to pay attention to what's going on. And the reality is that many of us are completely shielded from this reality because our children and the children closest to us are in the schools that work. So in this country we have two systems. We have 20% of the schools work well. And many of your children are in those schools that work well. Government schools. My kids are in government schools. I've always been in government schools. These are world-class government schools. Can I just take anybody who's got their children in some of these well-functioning world-class governing schools? 80% of our schools, however, are not where we need them to be, and that's 20,000 schools. 20,000 schools are deemed to be dysfunctional. Now we need, if we're going to change this, if we're going to be successful in making a difference, one of the things we need to do is we need to get clear around what is the unit of change. Because there's a lot of activity happening with teachers, there's a lot of activity happening with educators, or with learners, but the reality is that you transform a system with 20,000 nodes. You transform that one school at a time. And we don't have to have a long debate about that tonight, but I do want to check, is there anybody who disagree with me? Anybody who think we're going to change education by what happens in MEC Lesufi's office? Or we're going to change education by working at the district office? No, we're going to change education one school at a time. The school is the largest unit of change, said John Goodlatte. So if we're in agreement that the school is the largest unit of change, then the question comes, where do we start? Now, there's a wonderful book and a wonderful methodology called The Power of Positive Deviance. It says that instead of studying what's not working, it's a really good idea to study what works. I've got a little timer that's being shown at me here, so I'm going to rush through this. Good idea to study what works. And so instead of studying the 20,000 schools that don't work, it's a good idea for us to study the 5,000 schools that do work. And in those schools, we know that there are three things true. The first one is, in those schools, is that we have something, it's got something to do with the principal. And the second thing has something to do with the community. The third thing has something to do with the teachers. Now, the role of the principal is a very big role. It has two big aspects. The principals are expected to be general managers and educational leaders and ensure execution and alignment across a variety of disciplines. HR, IT, finance, marketing, facilities, mediation, security, all that stuff. It's a massive role. But principals don't only have that role, they also have the role of change leader, because we're constantly telling them that they need to take their school to another level. So they have to learn how to engage and mobilize stakeholders and have a vision and develop. Sorry, I'm just watching myself. I've got two sets of slides here. They need to be able to develop a plan to get them from where they are at the moment to somewhere else. This is a massive role. If you were a leader in Nedbank, you would have been prepared for this role for all your career, because you kind of get to this place when you're a general manager or a divisional head or something. The difference between Nedbank and our education system is that leaders in Nedbank get prepared for this role. But leaders in education and our schools typically are not prepared for the role. So the difference between schools that work well and schools that don't is in schools that work well, we have a principal who is equipped and supported for their task through 50 years of privilege. In the underperforming schools, we have a principal who's been promoted to the role of principal from being a teacher. Am I right, or do you disagree with me? Anybody in the education department who says this is not true? It's true. The second factor is that if you're a principal in a well-equipped school, you have a community that is mobilized around that school. So you don't do your own budget because there's a finance committee. You don't do your own HR because there's an HR committee. If you're a principal in Alexandra, chances are that you are doing it all by yourself. And it's not possible to do this. So the second piece around the community. The third piece has to do with teachers. In well-equipped schools and well-functioning schools, teachers feel loved, appreciated, supported, their eyes are shining. In our schools in the township, our teachers have given up. They've de-ended, not all of them, but many of them. So the question is, what are we going to do? If we agree that these are the keys to sustainable, systemic, high-impact transformation across 20,000 schools, how do we make that happen? If we agree that our future is at stake and there is a sense of urgency required, what will we do then? What if we could achieve quality education for all children in South Africa by mobilizing 20,000 small groups of people around our 20,000 schools? What if we could do that together? And if we did that, where will we start? So that's what Partners for Possibility is about. Principals have not been equipped for their task. However, we have thousands of business leaders who have been given the skills and the knowledge about leading large-scale change and managing organizations. So we're proposing, and that's what you're going to hear about tonight, a partnership between business, government, and civil society that will lead, and has already started to lead, to radically improved education outcomes in these schools. So we have a national asset. We're bringing these things together. I'm going to not tell you more about the detail, but I want to quickly tell you where we are now. So we have 296 of these partnerships. You're going to hear stories of 4 of them tonight. These partnerships were shaped by principals. They told us the following. They said, firstly, we do not want to be fixed. As a principal, it's demeaning when you come with your fix-a-principal story. Don't come and fix us. Secondly, don't adopt us, they said, because you adopt puppies and babies, you don't adopt schools and principals. Thirdly, don't come to us and dump your own old stuff on us. So bring us some stationery and books, and now we have to be all grateful for that, because that's also demeaning. And thirdly, we want these partnerships to be reciprocal partnerships. We want the business leaders to consider the possibility that they will learn something from us. We know that we're going to learn something from them. And tonight you're going to hear about 4 business leaders whose lives have been changed as a result of being in a partnership with a principal. So as a social enterprise, we've been through a very interesting journey over the last few years. We started with a pilot. Actually, we started with one school, and then we had a pilot. And this year, because of the GDE 66 Schools project and contract that we got from the GDE, supported by MEC Lesofie, we've taken, the organization is on a trajectory, and we are creating a movement. And we would love for you to be part of this movement when we go to scale. So there are a number of people and organizations who've been involved in this. I want to highlight just two. One is Nedbank. Thank you, Nedbank, for the amazing support you've been giving us. The other one is an organization called Multotech. We have with us tonight the CEO of Multotech, who's one of the small organizations who said, as an organization, we're making a commitment to be part of this. And 4 of their business leaders have already started to work with principals.